All right. Jake Fischer, senior NBA reporter for Yahoo Sports, is here with me, taking the time out of his busy schedule to talk all things Kevin Durant, Phoenix Suns, and whatever else we're going to talk about. You guys, I am honored and humbled to have Jake as my guest here today. Jake, you obviously, are NBA insider for Yahoo Sports. You are also the author of Built to Lose: How the NBA's Tanking Era Changed the League Forever. All your information when this is uploaded will be in the description box below. But Jake, properly introduce yourself, man. How you doing? Welcome to the show.
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me. The honor is mine for someone as dedicated to this team and as excited to talk Phoenix, all things basketball. That I've checked out your channel. You do some great work, Brandon. So
Thanks,
it's great to be here. I'm a senior reporter at Yahoo Sports. I was at Bleacher Report before that. I was at Sports Illustrated before that. And my book, Built to Lose: How the NBA's Tanking Era Changed the League Forever. It's got a lot of Phoenix Suns stuff. The stuff that Suns fans might not want to revisit the Ryan McDonough years, but that being said, obviously Devin Booker, the 13th pick in 2015, that was a pretty big building block to get to where we are now. And obviously how they faltered down the stretch of the 2017-18 season or the whole season.
Yeah.
Brought DeAndre Ayton. So there's a lot of little material there that I think any Suns fan would enjoy to read about. So that's my spiel. That's who I am. Let's get into it, man.
Let's do it, man. So, I've been getting this question myself, and anytime I have a guest on or whoever it may be, even if it's a friend, whenever on the show, I do have to ask this question. Where were you when Kevin Durant got traded? What were you doing? Because just real quick, Jake, I did a recap of Matt Ishbia, the new owner's press conference. And then I was just waiting. I was just getting things ready for the trade deadline. All of a sudden, my phone blows up. I was getting phone calls, DMs, and all that. So where were you when Kevin Durant got traded?
I was on my couch. I pretty typically during draft week, during trade deadline week, I don't like to sit at my desk while I'm making calls. It can feel super, super just like a slog. And if you don't mix it up, I feel like you can kind of go crazy sitting, especially this is my podcast background. My desk is over there in the corner of my room, and it's kind of in the corner and white walls. You got to get out and see some fresh air sometimes. Yep. So I like to sit on the couch where I've got like a whole view outside of my balcony. And then, Wednesday night, some deals went down. I'm trying to remember exactly what happened, but I remember the Acapulco trade went down. I was tracing that one down, and I texted or I messaged in our Yahoo Slack group. I said, "This is the only thing that and there were a couple of trades that happened too. And not to say that I'm always aware of every conversation happening in the league, but I'm pretty plugged in. And there was nothing else that I was aware that was like actually being discussed at that time. I had known that Phoenix was there. They were waiting. They were wanting a chance to get Kevin Durant. They've been wanting that since the summer. By all accounts, a big reason why Kevin Durant even requested a trade before free agency last year, it was because he wanted to go to Phoenix. Phoenix wanted him. This has been in the works for 6-7 months, however long it's been, 8 months at this point in time. And the second Kyrie got traded or requested a trade, even the Suns are right there again on the periphery, waiting to make a deal for KD. And I texted someone with Brooklyn at like 12:30, whenever it was Eastern time, right after I messaged in Slack. I said, "I think we're done for the night." And the person said something like, "Definitely not." And I was like, "Okay, I'm going to stay up now."
More coffee.
Like an hour later, the news broke. And then I was up till 4:00 writing my instant reaction piece. And that started what was just kind of a miserable couple of days of no sleep and a lot of caffeine. I don't drink coffee regularly, but I don't drink coffee, but I had coffee the next day, and it was necessary. Yeah.
It was insane, man. Because like I said, I was doing live shows on Matt Ishbia's press conference and just prepping. And then that KD trade changed everything, and everyone's schedules, like life was put on hold. You know what I mean? So it's good to have an insider to see where you were at and everything. And just real quick, sort of a follow up question. Like, what was like? Were you shocked a little bit? Like, did it catch you off guard, or like how were you feeling when the trade went down?
I mean, honestly, my reaction was right
Like more
now,
work?
like this couldn't have waited till tomorrow.
Yeah. Right.
I mean, I knew the Nets had no interest in DeAndre Ayton.
Yeah.
A big sticking point last season was that the Suns were not willing to put Mikal Bridges onto the table. And from conversations I've had, Matt Ishbia made it pretty clear from the get-go that I'm willing to do what it takes to get this guy and to put all our chips on the table and make a run at this championship. It's a borderline reckless trade. Like, we can get into the reaction of it in terms of like analysis,
Yeah.
where I know other people have been saying it too, but it's something I just keep. I mean, I live here in Brooklyn, so I watched the Nets tenure, crumble before my very eyes, and a lot of that was due to a lot of different things. But a constant theme for every little derailment of that era in Brooklyn was injuries. A lot of them, Kevin Durant, bunch of knee injuries. He's had the same MCL sprain multiple years over that both kind of preempted James Harden and Kyrie Irving's trade requests in back-to-back seasons. So, I mean, Chris Paul hamstring stuff has been obviously lingering for a year after year after year, especially when it gets to the postseason. And I don't want to sound like too boilerplate talking head guy, but there's just a lot being put on two surefire Hall of Famers, two perennial All-Stars who just happen to be approaching 35 or past 35. And they've got a history of nagging lower body injuries that if one of those guys goes down, it's just going to be very obviously Kevin Durant will be a bigger loss. No offense to Chris Paul, than CP3 would be. But no matter what, losing either of those guys after dropping three starter caliber players, if you factor in Jay Crowder, you make that trade pretty much any time you can to go get Kevin Durant if you're willing to sacrifice and swallow those question marks that I'm referring to. But it is Kevin freaking Durant. So when you've got Devin Booker in his prime, when you've got Chris Paul still playing at the caliber that he is, I mean, he's been such a lifeblood for this team the last 3+ seasons or 2.5 seasons, whatever the exact amount is. I can't keep it track after the COVID years.
Right.
You do it, especially if you feel like you're in a market where, you can cut ties with CP and you've got KD under contract for a long time and you might be able to attract somebody else. So that's kind of my spiel. Yeah.
So Jake, obviously you and I are both short on time here. We're going to go watch Kevin Durant make his son's debut here in like 50 minutes. So I'm going to kind of tie these two questions together. It's more of a segment, if you will. So now that we've had time to fully process the Kevin Durant trade, which I still haven't, let's be real, these last 3 weeks have felt like a dream. I've been literally reading every Kevin Durant article I can, watching every video, listening to all these different podcasts, and it still doesn't feel real. So I guess what I'm trying to ask you is, what are you going to be watching for during Kevin Durant's debut tonight, and just your thoughts in general about the Kevin Durant trade? Like, are you as hyped as we are, in Phoenix and all that? Are we a championship contender, which we are going to talk about in a little bit? Like, what are your thoughts, man? What are you thinking?
Yeah, I think it's objectively exciting, and the Suns were on the rise, make the finals, 2 games away from winning it, obviously in 2021, and they just added arguably the greatest player in the league. So it's going to be really exciting to watch. I think tonight, the thing I'm more so curious to see, especially because it's the Charlotte Hornets, and LaMelo Ball's out for the year. No one's
That's unfortunate too.
It is unfortunate. No one's really expecting this to be a competitive game of playoff type intensity, right? I'm just curious to see. I mean, a lot of times when I go to games, I look at the first opening play structures are typically pretty scripted. So, and that's honestly, I only really plan to watch the first quarter tonight, and I'll catch up later on. But I'm curious to see what Monty Williams' staff has designed from the get-go here, because that can kind of set the tone of this game, but also it might set the tone for the whole rest of the season in terms of the hierarchy, the pecking order of what they're going to be doing. I mean, there's been such of a so much attention focused on trying to get Devin Booker cooking, right? And I think Mikal and Cam Johnson have been like secondary pieces that their shots have kind of come in the rhythm of the offense. I know, I mean, I don't watch Suns games as closely as you do, so I'm sure there's been concerted efforts along the way to get other guys going here and there. But every time I watch Phoenix, I feel like the start of the game is a lot of pin down stuff to get Devin work at the elbows, at the nail, on the wings. Those are also the same spots that Kevin Durant operates at too. So CP and Booker have been pretty good at sharing that area of the floor. I'm really curious to see how all three of those guys who are so lethal in the mid range, how they can use the spacing of those guys outside shooting to benefit each other, and the fact that they'll command so much oxygen when the ball swings. They're each going to have an opportunity to break down probably a defense by minimum in rotation, let alone a guy one-on-one, because the opportunity to double team those players are going to be fewer and further between. So yeah, I mean, of course they're a title contender. I mean, they're going to be probably, they're going to be probably thinner than others in terms of Denver's got, 9-10 guys in their rotation. Golden State, when healthy, is going to have a pretty deep, veteran proven rotation now that Gary Payton's in the fold, and he just helped them win the title last year. I mean, Memphis is deep. Sacramento, who knows how real of a threat they're going to be, but they do bring 9-10 guys off the bench, or not off the in totality. Josh Okogie and Torrey Craig have been unbelievable this season, but they're on minimum type contracts for a reason, and we have seen both of those guys go through massive shooting slumps before. So I'm going to be curious how in the postseason those guys come to play, especially with that injury concern. And it's going to be very matchup dependent. If those guys are able, or if teams are able to give them like a Tony Allen, Andrew Bogut type of attention, where they're kind of just ignoring Josh Okogie in the corner or Torrey Craig in the corner, like that will allow defenses to throw that extra wave, to throw that extra defender at the big three. So we'll see. I'm also curious to see what DeAndre Ayton's role is in all of this. Is he going to be exclusively just a pick and roll partner for these guys? Are they going to continue to try to find him for those little duck-ins and feed him in the post? I'm sure they will try to get him to eat, but he's just going to be able to run the floor, set a screen, and dive to the rim and probably get 15 points easy now. His life should be the easiest it's ever been in the NBA.
Exactly.
Will he be willing and able and comfortable playing more of that type of secondary role, getting his points off of actions rather than having himself just fed directly down low? I'll be curious to watch that too.
Yeah, no, that was a great, analysis of all that. And I've been respectfully been saying these two words a lot lately: decoy and garbage man, or garbage men, because let's be real, you talked about the double teams, so that's probably not going to happen with KD and Booker and all that, but there's going to be a lot of guys wide open. So there's going to be a lot of decoys out there. And if, let's say, Kevin Durant doesn't have it going, DeAndre Ayton should be right there to clean it up. And he needs to be engaged every single game, because Kevin Durant is going to teach him how to work. So, Jake, before we get out of here, man, just final question. You sort of referenced this a little earlier. In your opinion, and look, this is a strange NBA season. You know that. The standings, especially in the Western Conference, are very fragile right now. It seems like even the Lakers could make the play-in tournament, even though LeBron's out for, who knows how long. But you get my point. Very fragile standings right now. In your opinion, who is the biggest Phoenix Suns threat as of March 1st, 2023? In your opinion?
So I've been banging this drum quietly all season long in my phone calls with people around the league. When healthy, the Golden State Warriors are still the Golden State Warriors. And
Exactly.
They know Kevin Durant as well as anyone. They beat Kevin Durant on their way to that title that title run that fell short, but ended up drawing Kevin Durant to Golden State.
Yeah.
They have rangy bodies. I wouldn't say they're as flush with defenders who can guard him anymore, being that Draymond's a step slower. Andre Iguodala is certainly a step slower. Even losing guys like Otto Porter, who's another body that they threw
Can't
at
pay
wings last
everybody.
season.
Mhm.
But they've got Andrew Wiggins, they've got Klay Thompson. Kuminga has certainly made massive strides, during long stretches of this season. So, I mean, Steph Curry's coming back pretty soon. There's this has kind of got some last dance type of energy around this team, being that Draymond can opt out of his contract. Bob Myers' situation is undetermined. And they have a lot to play for. This really could be the final run of this team, comprised with the lifeblood and the real, foundation that they've had over this 4 championship run. They're not going to go down lightly. So Denver, I want to give my props to what they've done, and Nikola Jokic has been incredible, and they are deep and nasty and feisty, and Aaron Gordon's made massive, massive, massive strides himself this season as a playmaker, as a passer. But I think if you want to talk about the big bad that Phoenix has to be looking out for, it's got to be the reigning champions. It's got to be.
That's fair. It's funny too, because I saw somebody tweeted out like they're 5th right now, which is insane because it doesn't feel like that. And I feel like this is just my personal opinion. And respectfully, no one talks about the Denver Nuggets. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. Jake, this has just been an incredible show. Obviously, we're both short on time because in 40 minutes as of right now, Kevin Durant debuts. Enjoy the game, Jake. Thank you so much for being here, man. This has been an absolute pleasure. Anytime you ever want to come back on the show, I'd love to have you back on. And once again, just real quick, can you let people know where to find you, man?
Yeah, thanks again for having me. And I hope you have a fun ride covering this team down the stretch of this season. Everything I do is at Yahoo, yahoosports.com. I'm at Jake L. Fischer on Twitter. And yeah, my book, Built to Lose, still out there. Very, very discounted now. If you were waiting for whatever reason, it's like $11 on Amazon. A lot of Phoenix stuff in there. So couldn't recommend that more highly. And there's some like funny stuff about like Deontay Christmas and PJ Tucker and the Morris twins partying too hard when they stumbled out of the 8
right now.
when they stumbled out of the 8 seed in that like back-to-back LA game that I'm sure fans will remember, and Goran Dragic like broke his ankle in Dallas to like fall out. Tough memories, but a lot of fun, silly things behind the scenes. That 2015 trade deadline where Isaiah Thomas goes to Boston and Brandon Knight goes to Phoenix, and Michael Carter Williams went to Milwaukee. I have the scene where like player after player is walking off the bus because they're all getting traded.
I remember that.
A lot of fun Phoenix stuff in there. So I'd be remiss if I didn't let your listeners and your watchers know that the book is still out there and it's got some Sun stuff in it.
Once again, you guys, all the information is in the description. Jake, thank you so much for being here, man. I appreciate it.
Thank you, man. Go Suns.
Go Suns.